But first, I'm talking about these insane Black Lives Matter protests that are based on a total myth that our police are picking on Aborigines and murdering them in our jails. These protests have encouraged a hatred of police. F the police, as we saw in Sydney.
The police! The police! The police!
And we're now seeing the consequences of this kind of rhetoric, these lies, these myths. The New South Wales Police Chief Mick Fuller says he's seen a jump in negative comments on police, particularly on their social media pages. On Tuesday in Boggabilla, I don't know if this is related, in Boggabilla, a largely Aboriginal community in New England, a rock was thrown through the window of a police car, injuring Constable Nicole Welsh, cutting her on the neck. This race madness has got to stop. Got to stop before some police get killed. But what gets me is the cowardice. Yep, the cowardice. The cowardice of our leaders, our politicians and our police chief. They are so scared of countering these anti-police lies with the truth. Now, you take this effort today from the Prime Minister. A miserable failure to tell Greens leader Adam Bandt, this rabble-rouser, the truth when Bandt peddled this toxic myth that racism was causing hundreds of Aborigines to die in police custody and our jails.
There have been 437 Aboriginal deaths in custody since the Royal Commission delivered its final report. Prime Minister, if you don't want Black Lives Matter's protests to continue, why don't you do something about institutionalised racism in this country?
Every death in custody, and particularly Indigenous deaths in custody, is an absolute national shame and tragedy. And what the Minister for Indigenous Australians has been working to do is also to address the contributing factors which find Indigenous Australians in custody.
Well, particularly Aboriginal deaths are a national scandal, not non-Aboriginal deaths. Listen, that is not good enough. Our police and our justice system, our country needs the truth told here by the Prime Minister. The fact is Aborigines in jail are less likely than white prisoners to die in jail. Less likely. Look it up. And the Aborigines who do die in jail do not die of racism, let alone institutional racism. The overwhelming majority die of natural causes like heart attacks. Almost all the rest kill themselves. Tragedy, not racism. Check the stats. The Institute of Criminology reports the deaths in custody line is a fraud, and the Prime Minister should have had the guts to protect police from this smear. To tell Adam Bandt, who was off his tree, it's true Aborigines are 10 times more likely to be jailed, but that too is not racism. It is the consequence of a terrible truth that Aborigines are also far more likely to commit crimes that deserve jail, 9 times more likely to put their wives in hospital for a start. But the Prime Minister and the Premiers and the police chiefs, they're all too scared to say this, all too scared, and so police have to cop it. The rocks through the windows and all that kind of stuff, and the abuse. As for the media, how pathetic is my profession? We now get journalists, particularly on the ABC, encouraging this stupid, destructive anti-police talk by pushing this insane idea that the race riots in America mean that the idea of radically cutting police budgets and spending the money elsewhere, well, that may have been long dismissed by most elected politicians as a fantasy of the far left, but hallelujah, that's now changed. These journalists are so excited now. But the Minneapolis City Council decided to scrap its own police force, the one that killed George Floyd and started these riots. They're so excited by calls to defund police everywhere, scrap them even. Here too, they say.
To protect all members of the community and not just a section of the community, then that's what it's got to take.
What, getting rid of the whole police force?
Well, I mean, I'm going to put it out there, yes, if that's what it's got to take.
Oh, that's so fashionably radical. You know, modish opinions to match your modish earrings. It's the radical chic there. Tom Wolfe called called that type the radical chic. But no thought at all from these bubbleheads about how scrapping police would actually work. I mean, you look at what happened when Steve Price on Channel 10's The Project interrupted the burbling, this off-the-planet burbling of Waleed Ali and Carrie Bickmore with the obvious question.
What exactly does that mean? I mean, I'm not sure I want to live somewhere where you had no police department. What happens if you get robbed or attacked?
I'm assuming, and there's a lot of details to come, it doesn't just mean tomorrow there's no police in Minneapolis. It just means they're going to overhaul the whole system, change approach, and I'm guessing which officers fit in with that and which don't. They'll work out over the coming weeks and months.
I'm assuming, actually, Carrie, the protesters yelling in the face of the mayor of Minneapolis did not mean that at all, that would just reform the police. They, and Black Lives Matter, they want forces scrapped, which is what the Minneapolis Council says will happen.
Yes or no, will you commit to defunding Minneapolis Police Department? What did I say? We don't want no more police. Is that clear? We don't want people with guns.
We don't want no more police. Did you hear that? We don't want no more police. Excuse the grammar, her grammar. So, Carrie and Waleed tried again. Well, actually, they claim scrapping the police has been done before. It's in these notes that one of the radicals in the back rooms of Channel 10 wrote for me. Have a look.
They've done it before. Camden, New Jersey, Compton, California.
Did it work?
I don't see why it wouldn't have.
It doesn't say that. It just said that they had to because of huge issues they were having there.
Oh, it doesn't say that in my notes. You know, the guys in the back, they feed me these lines. Well, that's the thing with so many on the left, by the way. They're so interested in the theory, not the practical. I mean, you know, Marxism, oh, it's so beautiful on paper, you know, so beautiful on paper. On theory, oh, did people get killed in practice? Millions, you say? Now, you would think that Waleed and Carrie and all the journalists on the ABC pushing this stupid idea, you know, defund the police and all, would at least go to the bother of finding out how this idea that they're now pushing had actually worked in practice, because I did. In fact, Camden, one of the two examples that Carrie mentioned, oh, they're in my notes, they did sack one force, but guess what? They promptly created another. They rehired many of the same officers that just sacked. In fact, the force is now bigger than before. And Compton, the second example they mentioned, in California, it also didn't get rid of police. True, it scrapped its force, but then it got one from Los Angeles to come and do its policing as well. And how did that work out? Well, here's a headline from last week. Compton leaders call for removal of sheriff's deputies after man's beating. See, the guy they actually thought they beat up, they actually thought was a looter. So I'm so sick of people in authority now being too scared to tell the truth to activists whose aim actually is to tear down or have a look around. It's actually one of the best, richest, freest societies you could find in human history. And you have a look at who's really behind, say, the Sydney protests last weekend and now trying to organise another one this weekend. Hello, it's this bloke, Raoul Bassi, who went to court last week to fight a ban on last week's rally. Now, this Bassi is actually from the Socialist Alliance, and its policy is to smash our capitalist society and its police. It claims as long as police exist, there will always be repression. That is why we must accept nothing less than abolition of all law enforcement. There, Carrie, there you go. They want the police force abolished, not reformed. There is an agenda to these protests. It is not to fight racism. It is to push new myths and new hatreds, particularly of the police and the society they protect. Yet we have journalists more concerned with their image than these facts, and they're foolishly promoting this. And we have politicians too weak to fight